Okay. That's what I'm going to do then. Right? So welcome everyone to the second Tuesday's lecture series on a Monday, just to keep things interesting and exciting. My name is Greg Newton, and I'm the co-founder of the Bureau of General Services Queer Division, which is the all-volunteer queer bookstore upstairs on the second floor. I'm being helped out tonight by Josie, one of our volunteers, and we're very happy to welcome Chloe Davis to the center. We hosted Chloe during the shutdown online, so it's nice to be in person with you. So what I want to say about the center, I am not center staff. I work for the bookstore, as I mentioned before, but the second Tuesday lecture series has been going on for several decades and has brought many authors to the center, speakers of all kinds. So it's a wonderful series. If you'd like to find out more about the center's events, you can go to gaycenter.org. To learn more about the Bureau, you can go to our website, which is bgsqd.com. And before I introduce Chloe and Amanda Bruton, I wanted to read a land acknowledgement and a call for a ceasefire. So the Bureau acknowledges that our organization operates on the unceded land of the Munsee Lenape. We encourage you to join the Bureau in signing up to make a monthly donation to the American Indian Community Houses Mannahatta Fund. The Mannahatta Fund, according to its website, is an invitation to all settlers and non-native people who wish to acknowledge the legacy of theft and genocide that comprise the history of New York City and the United States. And you can find out more at mannahattafund.org. Very live, working with it. We also want to recognize that today, May 13th, is the 220th day of Israel's genocidal campaign against the Palestinian people, funded by our tax dollars and enabled by our government's unwavering support. We hope that you will join us in calling for an immediate, permanent ceasefire, an end to the siege, and an end to the occupation in order to stop the collective punishment of Palestinians and to ensure the swift delivery of desperately needed food, water, medicine, fuel, and humanitarian aid to the people of Gaza. So, Chloe O. Davis is an author who works in the entertainment industry in New York. A graduate of Hampton University and Temple University, she has centered her creative platform on amplifying the narratives of Black culture and heightening the awareness of the LGBTQIA+ community. Davis's work as a dancer, actor, and creative has allowed her to travel to all 50 states and internationally, where she has spent 15 years researching, writing, and creating the Queen's English to LGBTQIA+ dictionary of lingo and colloquial phrases. And today we're celebrating the launch of the Young Readers Edition. Cover. There we go. Up and close, there you go. Amanda Bruton is an NYC-based actor, writer, comedian. She has said words on several TV shows, including FBI, Manifest, OITMB, and The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. She is currently writing and developing the comedic podcast, Prego My Lesbo, our journey to becoming a queer parent. Amanda's original sketch comedy character, Connie Big Balls Boombaloni, has over 25K followers on TikTok, which means she is fractionally famous in some parts of Jersey. Please give them a very warm welcome.
Thank you so much, Greg. It's such an honor to be here and again to celebrate the Queen's English, now a Young Readers edition. So excited about that. But more importantly, I'm so excited to be in conversation with my dear friend Amanda. A little background about us. We are both in the entertainment industry. We are both actors. We are both theater geeks, and we actually started on a lovely tour called The Addams Family. And I'm not gonna tell you when, but it was a very long time ago. But that's where we met, but also that's when I started to really dive in the research for creating the Queen's English. And it's such an honor to be here because you were part of that process, part of that research, part of that diving into what is identity and what does it feel like, what words make you feel empowered, what are new words we can use to really make us feel our most authentic selves. And to sit here many years, to decade later, to not only celebrate the Queen's English, but also celebrate this new, beautiful young readers version. And I'm just so excited. So it's just an honor to be here to discuss the dictionary with you because you just have a connection with it almost as long as I have.
Yes,
Yeah.
I can remember, we'd be on the tour bus, some days longer than others, you know? And Chloe would she all of a sudden, she'd be like, hey, can I ask you what you think about this term? Or we would have conversations and it was a decade ago. And if we think about it, you know, now I thought it was so impactful then. And I think it's even more impactful now. So it's been really incredible to sort of watch the evolution of that and to have been part of the some of those initial conversations for the first book. And now for the Queen's English, the young readers version, which you always knew you were going to do.
Yes.
And I love that. Also, let's just talk about the fact, you know, yes, I'm always amazed by this woman. She's in a Broadway show. It's her second Broadway show. She tours, she dances, she choreographs, she writes books. She's got her I am blown away. There's nothing she can't do. And she does it all with charisma, uniqueness, nerve, and talent, and grace. And I'm happy to be here sitting in conversation with you and celebrating you and both of these beautiful books.
Oh my goodness, I'm blushing.
It's a little bit of a love fest. I'm so sorry. So I guess, you know, why don't we start with why did you create the Queen's English? Both, I think, the first book, and then what did you think was going to be the impact of the second one, the Young Readers Dictionary?
Yes, okay. Why did I create the dictionary? So I feel like there's branches to this question. So I'm going to try to articulate the branches.
Okay.
First, it started because I was really interested in a particular language I was hearing. So I dance in a dance company, the Philadelphia Dance Company, also known as Philadango. And a lot of my friends were part of the ballroom scene.
Mm-hmm.
We know the ballroom scene now so heavily because of Pose and, of course, the legendary documentary Paris is Burning, and the many other RuPaul's Drag Race, right? But the many ways that queer representation is being more mainstream now, which is wonderful. But I'm just gonna say it, back in 2006, that was not the case, right? So words that I knew because I was in the dance scene, like work and fierce and over, you know, I knew them, but to understand like the origin, right, of a word or like how something actually came to be. So I was learning new words like snatched, pull up, or, you know, even more so, more of like identity expression or more ballroom scenes like butch queen, femme queen. And so I started to ask questions, you know, and learning more about the ballroom scene and also its attachment to Black culture, I thought was very intriguing. And then understanding that these words are so eloquent, even though people thought that they were slang. I just thought that it was so dynamic and just intriguing. And I was like, you know, there needs to be a dictionary for this. That was me playfully saying it, right? Yeah. So some of our pastime on the bus, as I continued our tradition with the Addams Family, was that, you know, I would hear a word and I would playfully give it an academic explanation or an academic definition. And over time, my list just got longer and longer. And then I said, wow, there's so many words. And they were like, well, you should write a dictionary. And when you write it, call it Queen's English. So that's how it got its name. That's how I got started. But that wasn't the true passion. I think the true passion was the ability to share story, to share history, and to share identity, and make people feel empowered about their identity. I think that's the true essence, because then me, a branch, is that, you know, I can confidently say that I am a proud Black, bisexual, demisexual, biromantic, androgynous sometimes, you know, cisgender woman, right? But there were times where I couldn't, because I didn't feel empowered, because I didn't see that representation, or I just didn't have any guidance to help me understand who I am, right? So I think the next branch was personal, is because I wanted a source, a resource to help me truly navigate my way with identity, and for it to feel inclusive to all of the intersectionality of what I experience, right? Whether that be my race and my gender expression, my sexuality, right? I didn't see that. I saw, again, back in the early 2000s, I saw things being very, we talk about heteronormative, right?
Yeah.
Well, there's this word called homonormative. So it's like you see just queerness or anything outside of being heterosexual still being in this box, right? Being gay. And then if not just being gay, but being who has the power to make decisions, it's like gay white men. That's what you saw, right?
Yeah.
And then if it wasn't gay white men, then it was lesbian white women, right? So and then bisexuality was just like, what? Pick a side, you know?
Yep.
That was what I experienced, you know? It was like, pick a side. And I was like, I'm gonna try, but I don't want to. And I think that branch was for me to say, okay, something feels off and I wanna figure out who I am. And then I think that last branch came from my community, came from my artistic community, came from my artistic community introducing me to other members of the community, of the LGBTQI plus community, because it was time to continue to share stories and share history and document history that was, again, inclusive, that was diverse, that wasn't homonormative, but showed the beautiful spectrum of identity, you know, again, based on gender expression, gender identity, sexual orientation, you know, relationship orientation. It's just, there's so many aspects of identity, and I just got lost in the beauty of that, the beauty of humanity. And what if I can create something that shines light to the beauty of humanity? And I challenged myself to do that. And I think I'm so in love with my community. I feel so proud to say that. And so the Queen's English is my love letter to my community. And more particularly, the Young Readers version is my love letter to our young generation who, if we just sit back and listen to them, how much we can learn, because their identity is on a spectrum and they know it and they accept it and they appreciate it and they celebrate it. So now it's just giving them a tool to say, yes, what you're thinking is correct. You are on the right track. Teach us old ones,
Yeah.
you know, the understanding of that. So I just love this dictionary. I wanted it even in creating the adult version. I remember talking to my agent, shout out to Leela, but saying, you know, there needs to be a Young Readers version. And at first it was like, but after a while, I would get so many inquiries about, hey, are you gonna write something for, you know, younger people to go through? And I was like, you know what, I am, you know, and I manifested, and I'm so excited for Simon & Schuster. Shout out to Mitch, who's here with me today. Bringing it to their home, and also celebrating 100 years of exceptional books. And I'm so excited that the Queen's English, the Young Readers edition is part of that legacy. I just really think there's so much happening in the world. And I just feel like if we are able to nurture our younger generation in a better way that we were nurtured, then we're off to a great start. And one thing we can do is nurture them to celebrate our differences. And not only celebrate them, learn about them, And then also learning about ourselves. So I think this dictionary is celebrating, identity, pushing for more curiosity about what identity is. Also understanding identities that are not yours, but empowering those. And I think even though this is the young reader's version, I think the last thing is, I think this is a book for everyone. I think sometimes when we go back to the basics,
Really like youth versions of things.
yeah,
Well, for me.
go back to the basics,
Yeah.
go back to the simplicity of language and understanding. We don't have to write so eloquently, but we can just be humans together, so I think this book is a bridge for, our grandparents and the grandchildren and the parents and the children. And, I think this is a generational connection to understand identity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and what's funny is when you were working on the first book, I have a daughter, my wife and I have a daughter who now she's 4.5. But when we were talking about the first book, she didn't talk yet. And it's interesting that just in those 4 years, now that she is talking and she is a small human and has questions, I think to myself, oh my goodness, I am so grateful that there is a book like this that is going to help us along as she continues to get older and have more questions. And there are books that are more age appropriate for her, like Bodies Are Cool and What Makes a Baby, that talks in very inclusive language. And the pronoun book and all of these things, but it's really so true that the kids are never too young to have these conversations. Like they get it. And like you said, I am heartened by the current generation of teenagers and younger and how fluid they are. They're able to go back and forth and they don't really question any of it. And that gives me hope for humanity, especially in dark times. Given when we talk about dark times, what do you think the significance is of having this book come out in the year 2024, given all of the anti-LGBTQ plus rhetoric? What is the significance of that and this timing?
Absolutely. Yeah, over 250, laws
Yeah.
are in circulation or have been passed, hindering identities, hindering the development of oneself, hindering, the opportunity to learn more about oneself and each other. So
Speech and expression, like literally,
Exactly.
very core values.
exactly. So what I really love was diving into that research, but kind of the opposite. So what is happening now, but what is our youth doing to fight against it? And there's a section in there actually talking about, in Virginia, how, youth organized a walkout to say, we stand with our peers and our friends to be able to learn about, queerness, to be able to get, gender affirming care, so I just want to acknowledge that it is never too young to be an advocate, to be, marching towards equality. And so I wanted to pull out those instances where I saw youth leading the way. So, I thought that was really, really important. What is happening in the world, but also what is our youth doing to push against that? And I think that's very courageous. And also with the book, it was more so, okay, if you want to, I think pushback is because people don't like feeling uncomfortable. People don't like not knowing, and people don't want to be embarrassed, right? But that all stems from fear.
Right.
So how do we at most eradicate that? But it's more so let's dive into knowledge. Let's talk about what is. Now, you may not agree with it, right? But let's talk about it. And then once you know the reality of what's going on, then it's up to you to decide, okay, now that I have more information about whatever subject, whether it be learning more about, gender affirming care and why that is essential, learning more about pronouns and why that is essential to empower someone to be fully authentic in themselves, learning more about the different sexualities, learning more about different genders, even though you were raised during a time that there were just binary genders, but if you know more, then it's what are you going to do with that knowledge? And I think the way the book is written is not to say, this is the way. It's to say, these are the ways. So we can, once we know that these are the ways, we can be more compassionate about our journeys with life. So I'm super excited to see who picks the book up. But my goal for this book is that it gets in the hands of the people who desire it, who want it, and who need it. Right. And sometimes that's going to be our young youth who are poor, or just like in the dictionary, there's coming out advice from fourth graders and fifth graders, who are firm in their identity, identifying with they, them pronouns or ze, them pronouns. I just think that it's just so courageous to lean into that, because that's not something I was able to see growing up. And I'm just really excited for this book to have wings, to just kind of travel places I never thought it could go.
Yeah.
But more importantly, to make people feel whole.
And it's such, I see it being such an incredible resource. And again, it wasn't until I became a parent and you're having conversations with your child and you're seeing just how heteronormative the world is, and all of the books and the characters and the TV shows and the stuff, like everything. So the more resources we have like this from when they're, 2, 3 and beyond, the better, so that people see themselves, they see what's possible, they feel empowered. How would you say, so this, I love how colorful it is. I love for those of you, I hope you've had a chance to flip through it, because there's some really incredible illustrations.
Yes.
How does that all play into it? How does the dictionary work a little bit differently, this youth's version?
Yeah, so I said, if I'm going to be a nerd and nerd out, I need to be a cool nerd. And I think, and I'm an artist, right? I was like, how can I deliver heavy information, right? Because we're diving into some heavy things. We're talking about all sorts of identities. But how can I make it engaging and fun and really show representation of people, real people, real situations? How can I play with comedy? So that was important, to have illustrations to go along with all of the terms in the dictionary, or
And kids do like pictures.
yeah,
for sure.
pictures. How can we see each other in the dictionary, or laugh about a situation or a joke? And even in the interstitials, there are like sections that dive into the who, what, where, when, and why of the LGBTQI plus community, coming out, the genderbread person, how to tuck in behind, what is my identity, like really diving into it, or navigating safe spaces, or learning the history of marriage equality, or learning the history of LGBTQI plus individuals in the military, just learning more about Stonewall, you know what I mean, and having illustrations to help guide us in the history and in our culture, I think is really cool. So, I was thinking about something. Since this is a reading, I think we should, like, maybe Amanda, we flip through the dictionary, close our eyes, and point at a page and see what we get.
Oh, I like this game.
Yeah.
You guys do you like games?
Yeah.
Yes, let's play a game. All right. Should I go first?
You go first.
Okay.
I'll hold your.
Okay, all right. Hey, and the spirit moves me here. Okay.
Nice. Ooh, it's so pretty. You want to show them?
Look how pretty and colorful this is. Okay, you got, yep, all of the colors of the rainbow. Okay, let's see. I'm into it. Idiom, an expression indicating interest and support. Quote, Chrissy, I'm thinking about asking Counselor Akins to help us start a GSA club at our school. Some 5th and 6th graders have been talking about wanting one here. What do you think? Ashanti, I'm into it. Actually, I'm all the way into it. I want to plan the Pride Month parade at the end of the school year. Want more info? Think, I like that idea. Usage note. This term is commonly used in the Black gay community and the larger queer and trans people of color community. That's one. This is one. Yeah, I love that.
Can I talk about?
Yes, you wanna do that? You want me to-
We're gonna cover it.
I do, we're gonna-
No, we're gonna, Amanda's reading these because Amanda does voiceover and she's great. No, I thought it was really cool because I wanna talk about how to use a dictionary, right?
Yeah,
So what you heard was the term, right? The part of speech. You also heard a usage example. So
Yeah.
how is the term used most organically or authentically in a particular community? Because later on, you heard something called a usage note, and that's telling us like if there is where the origin of the word comes from, right? So in this particular one, it's saying that it's commonly used in the Black gay community or the queer community, right? And that was one of the things I was really adamant about doing, is giving credit where credit is due, right? Giving credit to communities and people who have coined and originated certain things, but because of marginalization, because of inequality, may not have had the opportunity to hold on to what is theirs. And that was another branch of that I was talking about earlier about like the reason of writing this, because I truly wanted to credit communities for their creation of language. Because sometimes, unfortunately, or fortunately, we'll see, but you know, when we talk about queer language, it gets to pop culture and then it becomes everybody's language.
Right.
And that, it's a bit unfair because yes, everyone can appreciate it, but what I don't want to do is have people appropriate it, right? And so with having the dictionary and actually having something physical, signed, sealed, delivered by Simon and Schuster, saying that this is real. You know, no, but as I'm joking, but it's true. It's like, you know, access to having the ability to coin and say this is mine was not always granted to marginalized people, particularly Black people, particularly, you know, people of color, and also, you know, the LGBTQI plus community. So that was really important. So throughout this dictionary, you definitely see that because, you know, it's about education, you know. I like to say there's a difference between appreciation and appropriation. Appreciation is when you're like, oh, I love this. This is great. I know where it comes from. When I use it, I'm not using it with malice. I'm not using it flippantly. I'm using it to appreciate versus appropriating, using it, misusing it, saying that this is how you use it and you're using it incorrectly, or not giving credit to the individual or community that created it. That's appropriation. And I really like to teach that in both the adult version and this book.
which I think you've done a fantastic job of, and the usage in particular, I think is incredibly helpful and useful. And like you said, it's been this thing where in the last decade, let's say with RuPaul's Drag Race, with Pose, with Madonna's Vogue, I mean, that
Yeah.
was a case of
There it is.
appropriation. You know, where suddenly you're only realizing years later, oh, I'm sorry, the voguing was actually part of the ballroom culture. She didn't invent voguing, okay?
Yeah.
So it's incredibly important to give people all of the information so they can use this language and the terms with respect.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna send it back to you.
Okay. You want to do another one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, wait, this one's not a term.
I know, but we can.
Do you want me to do it anyway?
So,
Oh, wait, let me go to the beginning of this section.
oh yes, this is great.
Okay.
Navigating safe spaces.
All right, so we can read a little bit of this.
Yes.
Okay, so this is, if you take a look, this is like one of the sections that is, this is one of the ones you call an interstitial.
Yeah,
Interstitial, all right. So this is called Navigating Safe Spaces for Us. Very important. Let's create safe spaces to unpack our true feelings. It is not always easy to deal with the uncomfortable feelings that may come up because of who you are and how you identify. Being LGBTQIA+ is powerful, unique, and liberating, but sometimes we have moments when we feel uneasy, isolated, and lost. Many queer tweens and teens are exploring to find their truest selves, but are often faced with the challenge of being pressured to conform into labels they may not feel completely right. Even when queer youth embrace an identity that feels right, They may not always feel comfortable speaking about their attraction or gender identity in public. Some LGBTQIA plus youth experience body dysphoria and do not feel that the physical body they are born into fits their identity. Other times, queer youth may feel unseen, misunderstood, and not accepted because of the intersectionality of their gender, sexual orientation, race, ethnicity, spirituality, and disability. Do you want me to go on?
I'll go.
Okay, all right.
I'll do some jury.
Yeah.
Feeling the negativities of queerphobia, ableism, bullying, shaming, and other prejudices is hard to navigate, and a mental health check-in helps to ease the stress and refocus the mind. Remember that mental health is an important part of your overall health. Your feelings deserve a safe place. So let's think of check-ins as self-care must-dos. It's actually okay to have mental health check-ins with someone you trust. Queer youth and those who are still questioning their identity may need affirming spaces to figure out the complexity of life. It is not uncommon to feel anxiety, fear, confusion, and even depression when navigating your identity. These feelings are honest, and they come from a place of needing acceptance, support, and care. When we start to feel uneasy, it is always a good idea to reach out for help. Sometimes we just need a trusted space to tackle the issues that are concerning us or seek guidance needed to grow into our best selves. A safe space can be with a family member, friend, counselor, therapist, LGBTQI plus peer, queer mentor, or simply an environment that feels trusting and affirming. There are several organizations across the country, like the LGBT National Youth Hotline, the Trevor Project, It Gets Better, GSA, and the National Runaway Safe Line, amongst others, that aim to support queer youth and give them the outlet they need to talk confidently about their identity. Never feel embarrassed to seek out the help you feel you need to make you feel comfortable. When we prioritize more welcoming and inclusive environments for everyone to thrive in, we are investing in a more promising future. So I really like this because when I talk about the spectrum of information resources that's throughout the book, we celebrate, but we also dive into real things. And sometimes finding a safe space to help us fully articulate who we are and feel empowered and grow into that is really important, especially when we're talking about youth. Truthfully, even as adults. So I think it's just, I want to encourage young people and adults that it's important to find safe spaces. And these are resources and ways to do it because there's always someone who's there that want to help you. Yeah. Thank you.
Yes.
Oh, I love this. I also want to speak a little bit about illustrations. So let's see if I can hold this.
Yeah.
Flip through. So I'm just gonna do a little flipperoo of the book. And it's very colorful. Lots of illustrations. And I think another I guess big point I want to add that I thought was really exciting. You can kind of see it on the back. You see the pride flags. And when I talk about the diversity of our community, that's why I love saying LGBTQI plus, because I'm able to talk about the spectrum, the diversity, the beauty, the complexity of what it feels like to be gay, to be queer, to be all the things, you know, non-heteronormative.
Yep.
And to also celebrate that and to celebrate the many flags. And so I think I wanna, if I can find it, let's see, maybe it's under rainbow, but I wanna talk about the flags because the first flag, ooh, question. Okay,
Is it trivia?
trivia.
Okay, trivia.
Who knows how many stripes the first pride flag had? Greg, or 1,000? 8. Yes, going on. Who knows who created it?
Ooh.
Nope, Gilbert Baker,
Yes, no, you're right, yes.
although I have heard some debate. But
There's always debate,
I know.
yes. We'll say coined, yes, yes, exactly. But what I tried to do with even the cover was kind of show that spectrum of like how flags have progressed over time. And we even see like the black, brown, and also the trans colors, right? Because in 2016, that's when Philadelphia first created a pride flag, adding the brown and black, and then we had in 2018, we had the progress flag, which added the black, brown, as well as the trans colors. And then we also have an addendum to that, adding the intersex pride flag. And so that's why when you see on the back, all these beautiful pride flags, because I really truly want to celebrate identity. Yeah, because it's, yes, we can mold ourselves in one and have our pride flag, but I also want to be inclusive. It's all about inclusivity, and that's what this book really stands for, showing the diversity and inclusivity of identity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is kind of a funny story. So where I live in Queens, we have a porch, and so we like to decorate that porch. Halloween, Christmas, Pride. So during Pride Month last 2 years ago, we ordered some little pride flags to put in our flower boxes. Well, then I saw that there was a variety pack, and I was like, okay, so maybe it's gonna be like the pride flag and the trans flag. Well, I got like something with like 15, 20 flags, and then I was looking them all up, and then our house, I feel like, looked like the United Nations of Pride, because we had all of them, and people were like, what are all those flags? I'm like, there's intersex, lesbian, bisexual, all of them. I don't know how many there are now, but it is a beautiful thing to be that inclusive.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna, maybe I'm gonna cover up
Oh,
the term. But
okay.
if I turn this around, can you all guess what identity this is based on their product? Colors DC.
Asexual.
Yes. Ace, yes, ace for asexual. Yes. I love it. Let's see. Who can tell me? Well, I gave this away, but what about this one? Intersex, yes, wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think something that we chatted about a little bit earlier about you're probably gonna have to do, volume 2, or like there's gonna be, this is gonna continue to evolve, right? We're gonna add more terms, more identities, and things are gonna continue to evolve. And I think you said something really powerful earlier before we were on stage, off the record, but now on the record, about how, today I might identify as a queer, lesbian who sometimes identifies as a gay man in drag, which really feels true to me. But that could change tomorrow. And I learned a new term recently, which was demisexual, which is where you can't really, you feel like you can't really form a sexual connection to someone else unless you feel an emotional connection. And I was like, oh my God, that's me. So now I'm adding another one to my stable of terms at age, whatever it is. But we are continuing to grow and change. And I think that's what's really beautiful about this. But yeah, there's gonna have to be more books.
I love it. No, I think that's exciting. I always say that our identity is always evolving.
Yeah.
And it's okay to feel one way about yourself, but then later it feels different.
Yeah.
And I encourage that to our younger generation, but I encourage that to us as well. Like, we are forever evolving. If I can share, so I was stalking Amanda, and I saw, on Instagram, you can put like your pronouns, and I saw she, her, they, and I said, oh, I love it. And I just love it because as long as I've known you, I think that's incredible, but to learn new information about you and, wanting to like celebrate that and how can I empower that, I think that's great. So yes, Amanda, they are really cool. She is really cool.
Yeah.
And sometimes you get questions about actually that,
I
right?
do,
Like if
yeah.
someone uses multiple pronouns, and that's something, we have a pronoun section in here.
Mhm.
There are different ways to use pronouns, and I love that many of the places that I've worked in, especially being an artist,
Yes.
we empower each other and someone can say, yes, their pronouns are like she, they, or they, she, or they, them. But just feeling empowered to know that you can identify as that and people will respect that.
Yep.
And also knowing that, you know, we're all growing and evolving, and even if you've known someone for such a long time and misgender them, you know, it's okay to just apologize and just keep practicing.
Right.
That's something, you know, I try to teach our younger generation, but also, again, the adults.
The adults, well, I
Yeah.
think it's the whole, particularly with pronouns. It's just asking, you know, you asked me about it today and said, oh, I saw that now you're identifying as she, her, they, and we talked about it. And there's a commercial with RuPaul's Drag Race that they're saying, just ask. It's the same thing in the pronoun book that my 4.5-year-old daughter has, just ask. And it's as simple as that. You know, so there's no fear, there's no harm in it. It's just so that we all can understand each other, how we identify, how you identify, and just opening up the conversation. That's it.
Oh my gosh, do we have any questions there? Or did we just do a great job? Yes.
Also, Chloe's an amazing dramaturg, so if you need one.
Oh, add that.
Yeah, my question is, how do you see other editions and how is that evolution? How do you envision that coming about?
Yeah.
As language shifts and there's more to add to the conversation
Mm.
and experience.
Thank you for that. So how do I see evolutions continuing to grow? Well, I can say a sense of pride, no pun intended, but like a sense of pride, being able to see the original first version being on display there and seeing the young readers buy it, you know, with that was an opportunity to research more, to bring terms up to date, to infuse new terms, to infuse more history that has happened over the last 3 years, which has been substantial.
Yeah.
So even that, you know, has been so rewarding. And even from having a US version to a UK version, you know, and diving into UK history, that has also been rewarding. So I do want to continue creating these and updating these, but I do try to write to be a trailblazer. So hopefully they last a strong 5 years, if not longer. And they're still intact. You know, because I didn't realize until now that it's like not only am I documenting history, but I'm preserving history at the same time, right? Because I'm writing about history that's happened already, like Stonewall, you know, but I'm also writing about what's happening now, about like this climax of, you know, fear. You know, it comes from fear from the unknown, fear from being uncomfortable, fear from change,
Yeah.
and what's happening to, you know, the communities. So I'm writing about the now, which will be history later, right? So I'm excited that this is a platform that I have, and I will do my due diligence to uphold it, and I will still use my community to continue. So if you have more words, I always ask, you know, please share them with me. Go to the website, www.thequeens with an S, EnglishUS.com, and just share more words, because I would love to keep documenting our language. I mean, I think we're at now 900 plus words and growing. So it's so substantial, but this is also, you know, yes, it's about 15 years of research, right?
Yeah.
And ongoing, but it's only me, right? So what's the power if I have more people to assist in creating this? So I think as versions go, I think the Queen's English is the platform, but I think it's going to be more brains filtering this information so we can just make it the best dictionary, the most read dictionary in the universe. Yes.
I was wondering if you have an idea of how to do the book. Yeah, because reading it from the beginning to the end, I feel a bit like overstimulating, but like, what is your idea of?
Yeah, so it's interesting because I've had many read it from beginning to end and love it. And then I have many who just say every day I flip through, I close my, like the exercise
Yeah.
today, close our eyes, points a page and then kind of gets lost. Another section I want to talk about, as I pointed, it says see, there's see also, and it says for this one, for chosen name, it says see also, given name, dead name. So it also kind of like how you want to navigate the maze. Like if you want to just follow the see also, you pick a term and it says, oh, well, now let me go to given name, and then, oh,
Yeah.
let me go to this interstitial on this history lesson. So it's however you want to use the book. Whether it is the conversational piece at, you know, at a social event with a friend, over the phone, on FaceTime, whether you need to fact check somebody and say, well, in the Queen's English, it says. Whether it's a term you heard and you're like, oh, is it in the Queen's English? Bam, it's there. So it's really however you want to navigate. And sometimes, you know, what I think is so beautiful, that is, it is a amalgamation, I guess, of like visual stimulation as well as verbiage. So, you know, sometimes depending on what kind of learner we are, maybe we just look at the pictures, maybe we just look at the illustrations and guide us that way. So that was the goal for the dictionaries, to kind of feed into whatever learning style you are. It's like you were able to really navigate the book in the best way you felt was good for you. Hi. Yeah.
I just really want to commend you on this. You know, it's so many conversations with, friends of mine who, you know, we talk about, you know, the current generation of kids, right? And just how free they are. I'm not saying that everyone is free or has the freedom to express themselves, but there really is this unapologetic energy that this younger generation is like causing all of us to have to like check ourselves, right?
Yeah.
And I think about like so many of the people that I'm connected to, you know, I can look at my own personal story and how I navigate spaces because of my own journey versus a friend's journey, and how difficult it was for them to come out, and how difficult it was for them to express themselves, and to have a piece of literature, a book that is, I mean, no matter how one uses it, but something that is representative of who you are is so wonderful in so many ways. But I want to also attach that to appropriation. So being of a certain age and also being of the generation when, you know, I'm a big Janet Jackson fan personally, but Vogue was, you know, huge then. But that thing of when Vogue came out, we weren't talking about gay culture in the mainstream. And that even though she, of course, also, you know, was around it, but to, you know, of course, she was the person being a white, cis, you know, hetero woman, or however she identified at that time, is the one that essentially put all of that out there. And what I love about now is that you're not going to dare do that, or you will be dragged. You know, like, you're not, you know, and it's just so interesting to look at the trajectory from hell, when did Vogue
In the 90s.
Probably like
90s,
92.
early 92.
Maybe, actually, maybe
Early
90.
90s.
Maybe 90, yeah.
Yeah, I feel it was great, so I
Yeah.
have to stage myself.
Yeah.
It's great,
Yeah.
but I remember that, right, and we didn't know, we just thought it was cool, but of course, you know, now.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not gonna be tolerated, like that level of appropriation of a particular, you know, art form of a people who were literally oppressed.
That's right.
Yes.
As to why the language was created in the first place, and the community was created in the first place for that safe haven. So I do talk about the ballroom scene, and even before that, the Harlem Renaissance, you know, and how, you know, just a lot of, it goes back to not having opportunity to represent yourself in the way that you choose because of marginalization, because of racism, because of queerphobia, you know, homophobia, things of that nature. I will say Madonna did use legendary dancers in the ballroom scene. And I will say I probably felt empowering to be able to do what you do underground, to be able to now be mainstream, right? Because it's kind of like, you're digging to make change, right? However, you know, when we do think about the brilliance of the ballroom scene, and what kind of monetary value it could have received. You know what I mean? We do think about that. But we also, there's words in here called privilege, whether it be white privilege or male privilege or cisgender privilege, right? It's real, right? And I think that's the other, these are the types of conversations that I like to spawn from this book, because it is a learning situation. We are learning about what society looks like in its totality and what we can do to change that, right? Because that was privilege. That was why Madonna was able to do that. And it was also a sense of, you know, an idea to say, okay, I'm Vogue. Because basically Madonna went to the ballroom scene and fell in love with it and said, I'm gonna write a song about Vogue. You know, but it was also someone saying, well, I get to dance in the video and I get to represent my community, and I might not have had that opportunity. So, you know, not to say anyone's situation was right or wrong, but again, just to see the facts and then you make your own conclusion, you know, and that's what I tried to do with the dictionary. Yeah, our world is not perfect, but if we continue to have these type of transparent conversations about what is happening, and we all learn from each other, then I think that's what's going to be the tool to help our society grow into a better place. Yeah. Well, I've had a great time here.
Thank you both
Thank
so much. They're both in the back. I'm sure Chloe would be happy to sign.
I would love to
Yeah.
sign. I want to say one more thing, and also for you all listening. I like to say, when you buy a book, then gift a book, right? So you buy a book for yourself and then you buy another one so you can gift it, because I do feel like a book as beautiful and precious as this may not get into the hands of the people who want it to until we place it in their hands. So that's why I always, you know, I say buy a book, gift a book. And there's also both versions back there, so buy them and gift them. Thank you.
Yay.
Yay.
Thank you both so much.
Thank you, Greg. Congratulations again.
Thanks